Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. It is Wednesday, August 21st of 2024, and this is our show where I jump into users' builds, giving them advice on contest selection, bankroll management, portfolio selection, and helping them to make adjustments to their process to hopefully lead to better lineups, stronger sim ROI in our contest flashback tool. So excited for today. Looks like we just have one person signed up today. So if anybody else tuning in wants to add their name to the queue, drop their DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord server, and that will help us to just bring you guys more content. Happy to help more and more users do this show. So let's jump in here. We have our first person up on the list today, Raf LP. Requested to look at single entry and 3 max builds here. So happy to do so. Raf's somebody that we've looked at a couple times here, so pretty familiar with what his contest selection looks like. Playing about $80 a day, having a really solid split here between single entry and 3 max and 20 and 150 max, doing different builds. So doing, a build for 1 in 3 max, less than 1,000 entries, 1 in 3 max with over 1,000 entries, building for the dime time separately from the quarter jukebox, the solo, and the moonshot, which is, I believe, the $3.20 max. If they're playing it here, I don't actually see a contest named Moon, but probably, they had 5 entries in the moonshot here, right? So this is actually really good. This is something we talk about. We're like, hey, don't move your bankroll number, just enter less lineups into a bigger contest. So, the way that their contest selection works out, they end up putting 5 entries in the moonshot, which I think is totally good, right? So seeing a lot of good things here, obviously. As far as what we are going to study today, let's spend a little less time. I actually want to work a little bit backwards here, because let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it looks like they split up their builds, right, into 1, 3, less than 1K, 1, 3, more than 1K. So let's look at which one has more lineups. So I see 3 lineups with 700 entries and 1 lineup with 990. So I'm assuming this first build has 4 lineups, and I'm assuming the other build has 1, 3, 6, 7, 8 entries. So we're doing 8 here on the single entry 3 max 1K plus. So let's spend a little bit of time looking at these sets, right? So it looks like their biggest contest prize pool wise, and we'll do something with a couple of entries here. Probably this $3 hot corner. So $3 3 max. Let's see how they did here, right? We're going to try and focus our time on the single entry 3 max build with more entries. So let's see here, jumping into users. Looks like Raf actually won this contest. So congrats here, right? We're seeing him number 1 user here, rank 1 by actual rank. So it looks like he won. So congrats there. All right, filtering for people who entered 3 lineups, sorting by sim ROI here. And let's see what we see. So aside from them winning, how do they do, right? Used a lot of salary, a lot of salary, 49.9. This is something that you'll probably see more on bigger slates, right? I think this was a 13 game slate. Usually the minimum salary is 49,000 on these bigger slates. So it's a little more common to use more salary there. So I think that's fine. Sim ROI about 9% here. We're seeing one user the like 10 to 13% range here. So Raf is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th highest sim ROI from people who max out the contest. So still really good there, right? And then I'd say one thing that stands out is, you see this person with the second highest sim ROI, sim average score 97.64. Raf had 97.94. The highest had 104. Some people had 101. So, whatever he's doing here, like this goes to show that's like, hey, projection is important, but there are ways to be positive sim ROI without it. It's just like not being too low, not being like 93, 94. If it's decent enough and close enough to the top, then you can get there, right? So considering the second highest sim average score had the same points as he did, I think this is fine. Nothing to worry about there. So I think this is an interesting opportunity to actually compare his lineups to the person who came in about like 5% sim ROI higher with the same sim average score, right? And I don't know how much we're going to see just looking at 3 lineups, but it is like, interesting to look at, right? So let's see what this user did. They played all 5 stacks. They played no team stack in more than one lineup. They used 3 pitchers and 3 pitchers only. So this is actually something that I kind of noticed yesterday. We've been talking about like value with pitchers a lot, right? So if you sort pitchers by value, these actually were the top 3 pitchers, right? So I think like one thing that we've been noticing is like, hey, value with pitchers goes like a really long way. And, they just played the top 3 value pitchers. No batter in more than one lineup, right? So get the pitcher value, spread out at the hitters, play at least a 5 stack. That's what we see from this player who graded out really well with a similar sim average score. Now let's see what Raf did. Okay, so played a 4 stack, which is, fines 4-4. Had 2 lineups with Minnesota. Played Wheeler, played Bradford, played Pavetta, didn't play Estes, right? So there are some differences, right? We're seeing some small differences in these lineups and some of the decisions that are made here. And not to say that it's bad, right? But we're trying to find at this point, when Raf's already in the top 10% sim ROIs, we're almost trying to find like micro edges. We're trying to find some of the smallest differences here to help him be, a couple sim ROI points higher, right? And I would say like some of the pitching decisions, I don't know if the 5 stacks like really matter that much versus playing a 4-4, but those are just things that we're seeing that are different, right? So when you guys are in a spot where it's like, hey, I'm already doing pretty good, but obviously I want to be the best. I want to be the top, right? You're gonna have to really dive in and try and find some of these micro changes. Okay, so pretty interesting here that we're seeing a min unique of 9. This is for a single entry. I don't know if that was used prior or not, but they're basically trying to get super spread out, right? And I think that's okay. So I'm not 100% sure how they did this. They have an ownership filter. I'm seeing min uniques of 9. Maybe I need to change it. Okay, so sometimes this loads a little bit funny, but let's just go back. Okay, I get it now. So on office hours today, we were actually talking about, there's kind of two ways to build your single entries in there's kind of two ways to build and fill your single entries in three maxes, right? We were talking about the approach where you do one lineup at a time, filling them, trashing them, going to the next contest, going to the next contest. The other way is basically what Raf's doing here, where he's building, he has 8 lineups and he's saying, hey, I want to build them all together so I can diversify across them all. And, he's basically saying like, hey, I want to use all of the contests here. So I believe there was 2 single entries and 2 3 maxes, which is how we get 8 lineups. So then he puts in a filter like, hey, I want ROI greater than 0 for all of 4 of the contests. That makes sense. And then they pick the risk adjusted ROI that they care about the most. I think it was on the chin music. So they're going by probably prize pool, right? Like, hey, the prize pool for the chin music is 10K and all the other prize pools for the other contests are smaller. So I'm going to use the 10K risk adjusted ROI. That makes sense to me too, right? And then from there, I'm going to up the min uniques as high as I can go and try and be as diversified as possible. This is a fine approach, right? This is okay. I think what's a really good indication of that, and, you could probably have some aggregate metrics to help you like see that, is that, your last lineup is still positive 20% sim ROI. Excuse me. And I'm pretty sure you probably have like a pretty solid sim average score, right? So only thing I'd probably recommend is just so you have those data points, throw up here average ROI from the chin music, and then maybe even like minimum ROI, just so you can see how those changes are affecting your set. But, if you're like, hey, I'm okay sacrificing some ROI to be super diverse in these lineups, there's 10 players in this lineup and I'm only willing to share, one player and, probably just getting to multiple pitchers, right? Like, hey, I think it's okay to use a pitcher in more than one lineup. I want to be, pretty spread out. That's good. So, first thing here is that this build looks really good and everything he's doing is making sense. And then the second thing is that he ended up winning the contest, right? He took it down. So it looked like he had the $1 3 max. Looks like they had another pretty solid finish there. So I'd say overall solid night for Raf, and nice to see Raf, constantly iterating over his process. Keep up the good work there, but pretty solid stuff overall. So looks like Rob said I didn't add the aggregate metrics because they were in a little bit of a time crunch, which I understand, right? It's all good stuff. So good review. Keep it up, and we're going to keep doing these reviews, and this $80 number is going to go to 100, 150, 200 over time, right? So keep it up. But with that said, that was the only person who signed up today. So I think this was like a good example of somebody doing a lot of the right things and benefiting from it. Kind of piggybacked off of the conversation in office hours, which is nice. Nice to see somebody successfully putting some of those methodologies to use here. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I will be right back here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for office hours, 5 p.m. Eastern for the build review show. If anybody tuning in wants to have their builds reviewed on tomorrow's show, drop your DK username in the office hours channel, and I will do exactly this for you. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.